In my 28 years as a financial advisor, one thing that I've found that plays a key role in financial planning is optimism. But optimism has to be warranted. Optimism doesn't do any good if it is not justified. And that's why I was very fascinated to recently come across the work of a man named Hans Rosling. This is his book, Factfulness. It is a fascinating book, and I've been very captivated by it. And essentially what he talks about is 10 reasons we're wrong about the world and why things are better than we think. In the next few minutes, I'd like to take a look. If we go to a website, The Conversation, this is a website that is highly regarded among academics and journalists, and I'd like to look at 7 charts that show the world is becoming a better place, and we'll just cover these very quickly. But I think after the next few minutes, if you take a look at this, it may very well change how you see the world, profoundly change how you see the world. So first, Mr. Rosling identified a worrying trend. Not only do people across the advanced economies have no idea that the world is becoming a much better place, but they actually think the opposite. This is no wonder when the news focuses on reporting catastrophes, terrorist attacks, wars, and famines. So I don't want to criticize the news because I do watch the news all the time. I love the news, but it does focus on the negative. We could say that's its job. But who wants to hear about the fact every day some 200,000 people around the world are lifted above the U.S. $2 a day poverty line, or that more than 300,000 people a day get access to electricity and clean water for the first time? These stories of people in low-income countries simply don't make for exciting news coverage, but as Mr. Rosling pointed out in his book Factfulness, it's important to put all the bad news we hear in perspective. So let's look at some of the things he points out. The first is life expectancy. So life expectancy was 30 in America, 35 years in 1770. Today, it is 76 years. And look at the steady trend upward and how that trend has even continued in recent years. Even during the Industrial Revolution, average life expectancy across European countries did not exceed 35 years. So now let's look at next, child mortality. So child mortality rates from 1751 to 2023, and we can see a tremendous reduction. Fertility rates are falling. So fertility rates, which is essentially births per capita, and what we see is a steady decline in the birth rate. It has now gotten so low that there's concern that it's too low and that we're veering towards underpopulation, which is very interesting because I grew up, this is from Smithsonian Magazine, I grew up with a book that became very famous during the 70s, the book that incited a worldwide fear of overpopulation, and that book was The Population Bomb. It made dire predictions, and it triggered a wave of repression around the world. But I remember growing up thinking we were going to be in this greatly overpopulated world. Now it's almost looking like we have the opposite concern. GDP growth. So we want to see the economy grow. Here, he shows us the growth of the economy from 1932 to present. And you can see a steady growth for the United States, Japan, China, and India. And even if we back this up, he goes back to 730 and look at the rate of growth that has occurred. So what about income inequality? We can look, and this shows income distribution, and look at 1800 and how it's moving in 1975 and how much it has moved even more today. So we see it more in the middle. Income inequality within countries has gone up, but global inequality has gone down. For the first time ever since the Industrial Revolution, about half of the global population can be considered global middle class. More people are living in democracies. And so the red shows people living in closed autocracies, and the tan is electoral autocracies, the light blue electoral democracies, and the dark blue liberal democracies. But we can see that there has been a trend towards democracies. Throughout most of human history, people lived under oppressive, non-democratic regimes. As of today, about half of the human population is living in a democracy. So what about conflicts? Well, conflicts are on the decline. Now here, he looks at conflicts where the great powers are fighting one another. So this doesn't capture smaller conflicts. But if we look at this trend of great powers fighting one another, it is profound. So throughout history, the world has been riven by conflict. In fact, at least two of the world's largest powers have been at war with each other more than 50% of the time since about 1850. So while the 20th century was especially brutal with two world wars in rapid succession, the post-war period has been very peaceful, let me say relatively peaceful. So this is really great news, and just 7 charts that can really give us a different perception of the world that's commonly we're having it shaped by the media, but maybe there is another perspective out there. I hope this has brought you some optimism about the future. Thank you for joining me.